Procedural due process. Pursuant to the Due Process Clause in the Fifth and 14th Amendment, yes, government entities, including state and federal agencies, must follow certain procedures before taking action that affects an individual's life, liberty, or property. Yes. Those procedures allow an individual the opportunity to be heard and therefore influence the outcome of the government's action. They also serve as a safeguard against unfair deprivation. More than a century of Supreme Court decisions have helped define, yeah, when an individualized proceeding is required, what constitutes protected liberty and property interests, and what processes must be in place for a fair procedure. Yes. Now, in 2011, you had court hearings that were unfair. Oh. See, the government has spent 100 years of Supreme Court decisions. Yes. And your county thought, well, we can just do whatever we want. Didn't you? I wasn't a resident of Washington State in 2011. Yes. And because of the accusation of domestic violence and child abuse, you issued a protection order. And that accusation of it took place on Guam. Now, my wife can accuse me of anything she wants to in Washington State. Yes. The problem is that there are procedural due processes where I have the right to influence the outcome of a government's action. Yes. But you didn't want to hear from me. No. So you issued a 1-year protection order on August 12th of 2011. Yeah. Then my wife petitions the court for dissolution of marriage, and you arrested me at the same time as serving me. Yes. Now, I went through a jury trial and I was found not guilty. The actual arrest and court hearings were expunged from my record. Yes. But you went ahead and reissued the protection order. Yes, 1 week after she petitioned for dissolution of marriage, based upon the false premise, the perjury, that I broke the protection order. Yes. Now, you wanted me to motion a court, yes, that has violated all the known procedures, yes, available to issue any court order. That's how corrupt you are. You have violated 100 years of Supreme Court decisions. 100 years of them. And somehow you thought I had no precedence to be able to sue you. Yes. I couldn't look through the last 100 years of Supreme Court decisions. There is no premise for me being able to sue you. Well, it says here, yeah, that a century of Supreme Court decisions, yes, have helped define when an individualized proceeding is required. Yeah. What constitutes protected liberty and property interests, and what processes must be in place for a fair procedure. Yes. Now, during the last century, yes, the Supreme Court has they have reviewed and ruled on numerous court proceedings, yes, that have involved the processes of the procedure. Yes. It's kind of like when you never give the respondent notice of court hearings. Yes. You never had proof of service. Right. And the whole process was never fair. Yes. Each and every court hearing has violated, yes, all the Supreme Court decisions of the last century. Yes. Now, as judges, yep, you must appreciate the century of Supreme Court decisions that have affected what is defined as procedural due process. Because I'm going to want to know every decision of the Supreme Court of the United States for the last 100 years. Now, last night I was talking to you about Dred Scott. Right now! See, it took a civil war for the United States to recognize the citizenship of black people. Yeah. Civil War. And after that Civil War, yes, there was this proclamation. Yes. It was kind of like an executive order of the presidency of the United States. Yeah. That Abraham Lincoln said that all the black people were free. They now could be recognized as being citizens of the United States. Yes. Now, when we look at, yes, we do, the actual precedent setting cases of the Supreme Court, I'm going to want to sue you from violating any of the precedents of the Supreme Court of the United States. It's going to be an expensive day. You're going to find yourselves in prison. You're going to lose everything you own. Yes. And then you're going to pay me restitution for the rest of your lives. Now, when I inform you, yes, yeah!